Hey everybody, it is Kevin Gray here at SmallCapVoice, and we wanted to do a little roundup on the news that's been happening over this past week because there's been several clients that have hit some headlines that are pretty heavy and they need some unpacking. So I'm sitting down here with Stuart Smith and then also Jay Rab to talk about a few of our clients here that have made some really great news over the past few days here. Stuart, let's go ahead and kick it over to you first. Who do you want to talk about?
Well, Kevin, I think I want to talk about QHS Lab first. QHS Lab is traded on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol USAQ. We've already spoken with the company a few times, the CEO, Troy Grogan. Also, we've spoken with Dr. Marcos, and I've got an upcoming interview with Dr. Marcos coming out that's going to be very important for everybody to tune in on. But we're talking today about the recent news. They had a great press release out on February 11th. That's the dateline. The headline is QHS Lab and Town Total Compounding announced strategic co-marketing partnership to expand market opportunities and drive organic growth. That's the headline, but dig into the first bullet point. And it's really about how this is being done. Non-dilutive, scalable growth strategy. That should jump out at all the investors. Non-dilutive being the big key part of that. You know, we want to see our companies think outside of the box, and this is a savvy company with strong management inside very lucrative verticals. Learn more about this company, pull up this news. But again, this is a company that right now has changed its focus a little bit throughout 2024, added some key members to their team. If you go back through the press wire and pick up the headlines in October 24th, they brought in a medical advisor, and his field is in psychiatry and behavioral health. And that's really the tool inside the tool that I'll be speaking to Dr. Marcos about. That's Dr. Marcos Sanchez Gonzalez. And he was brought on about 9 months ago as the new vice president of medical and scientific affairs. Now, this company, each time it brings somebody on, really seems like they tap into a new vertical. So that's the company I'd like to focus on for now. But of course, we also have a brand new client that announced their engagement with us, and that's WTER. But before I move off of USAQ, any thoughts from you and Jay?
No, Jay, you go ahead and go first.
Well, one of the things that interests me about USAQ, especially with them starting the year off right, is that press release that you were referring to has 200 doctors that they have instant access to that is going to help with their revenue very much so. And if we go back to talking about October, is they had a November press release talking about their unaudited sales. And that was a huge improvement over last year's sales. And so I'm thinking that once they release their November, December, January unaudited sales, we're going to see a huge bump in that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And one thing that I always loved about USAQ is how their business model is designed to penetrate the market very quickly. And I think we're seeing that in action. Very similar to some of the other clients that we're going to be talking about, they have this ability to use these strategic partnerships. That phrase is not just a buzzword in a lot of these press releases. Strategic partnerships have an intention in mind. They're not just coming together to work together. There's an end game. And the end game here is to ultimately boost those revenues, Stuart, like you were saying, in a very non-dilutive way. The market has responded very, very well here too. I'm looking at a 62% increase over the past 5 days, with average trading volume of only 24,000 shares and a market cap currently of 2.4 million. So there's a very, very small cap for you guys there that seems to be making some good headlines. But yeah, Stuart, you said new client. We're talking water, so let's go ahead and switch over. I just call them water. WTER is the ticker symbol, but the whole name is Alkaline Water Company. What headline did they bring to the table this week?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of headlines over the past few weeks, and I really want to bring everybody's attention to the chart on this company since we added them to our watch list. It's had a little bit of a pullback, but when you go from 3 cents to 40 cents, I think you'd be pretty happy to be landing right here at the 15-cent mark, where if you look at it, they're starting to build quite a bit of a foundation there as well within that support level around 15 cents. So a lot of good people making some good money on this one. This is the Alkaline Water Company, as you pointed out, main developer of the Alkaline 88, a purified alkaline water. We've seen our own Jay Rab here, who's picked up the product. He's been putting his videos out with the product. You heard my quote, or you saw my quote in this press release, and I think it's important that this company really they brought back management. Okay, the CEO is back, and he is really Ricky Wright again is really pushing things forward in a rapid pace. Because I was looking at, wow, you're on this parallel path of OTC QB uplisting, but at the same time you're doing these you're negotiating and consummating a strategic bulk inventory purchase. Again, that's done through creative financing. Again, something that's not going to be dilutive to the company in the here and now because it's done with restricted stock. You can pull that press release up as well. But that's really what's impressed me about this company is they have a lean and mean management team, but they're able to create headlines. They're able to consummate deals, and they're able to work on this uplisting. And from what I see here in the recent press release from them, and I'm looking forward, by the way, to speaking to Ricky Wright here in the very near future. The OTC QB listing is forthcoming as well. So really impressed so far with the management team of what we've seen there at WTER. It was exciting that they brought us in when they did. And it was exciting that we took them on even before we were retained so that we could show people this. And the reaction from our audience really was, it was surprising.
Very, very much so. And I think one of my favorite things is we're starting to get comments directly on our social media around this from interested shareholders that are looking forward to trading this company on retail trading platforms. Currently, right now, if you go to their profile here on OTC Markets, it says that it's for unsolicited quotes only, which means you do have to contact your broker when dealing with this stock. The uplist might help with that. And so we'll see kind of how that plays out in the near future. Jay, you've tried the product. You've been the only one out of the three of us to try the product. I plan on placing an Amazon order for some Alkaline 88 just to give it a shot in the near future here. But Jay, what are your thoughts on Alkaline?
So anytime you're dealing with OTC, it's a high risk investment. And the fact that this OTC is going uplisting to the QB, it has physical products that are already in stores that you can already get access to, especially with Amazon. Anybody can go and order something. That's a high positive in my mark. The water is very refreshing. I'm a very avid drinker of water. Always have a water bottle next to me. Actually, I think that is correct. That's one of their bottles. It's kind of hard to see with the lighting, but so I have it nearby. I bought a couple of them. Really enjoy it. Thought it was very refreshing. And so I'm very happy with this company, seeing them have products that are getting out on the shelves. And especially with Ricky Wright coming back into the play, I feel like he did a really good job starting the company off, and him coming back into it is just a good sign.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think that's fantastic. And I mean, again, the market's responding perfectly. We're looking at 180% increase over the past month here. Again, it peaked much, much higher than that. And as Stuart mentioned, it has settled down around 14 cents, but peaked at 40 cents there on February 6th on 1.2 million shares traded. Company does average volume of 293,000 shares, market cap 2.15 million. So again, another very tiny small cap. I think we might need to pivot to a little bit larger of a company for this next one. Let's talk KULR Technology and the headlines that they've been bringing to the table here. Who wants to go first on KULR?
Well, I think as a longtime NVIDIA shareholder, it's wonderful to see the type of partnerships that KULR Technology Group, traded on the NYSE under the ticker symbol KULR, has been able to not only bring to the table, but as we always talk about with KULR, we see so many different repeat contracts. Now, here's a new one. KULR signs distribution and integration agreement with EDOM Technologies to support AI ecosystem supply chain, with EDOM being a company that's traded on the Taiwan Exchange. 3048.TW is the ticker symbol. You can pull that up in the press release that came out January 27th. And again, longstanding NVIDIA channel partner. Big deal because this puts KULR on the radar of NVIDIA. And I think that's important as well. We know they're already on the radar of some of the bigger companies, the ones they work with like Blue Origin, the ones they haven't started working with that still know about this company. We've seen so many great things out of KULR so far in this year. But Kevin, as you were pointing out, this press release may have flown over the heads of a lot of the people in the audience because they've been focusing on the Bitcoin strategy. Talk to me about your thoughts on this one, Kevin.
Absolutely. So, a lot of our work with KULR Technology has been around supporting their brand and getting it out there more visible. And when we've been able to do that, I've seen a lot of these products firsthand. I've gone to some of these events where we've been able to shoot some content around the products. We shot a bunch of video content for them, and what I've learned through all that experience is that this is not a off the shelf solution. Regardless of what product you're talking about with KULR Technology, it is a very customized solution. So whether you're talking about cathodes for the nuclear sector, and I know that I'm going to get comments about how I pronounce that, the battery sector, or whatever KULR is involved in, it doesn't matter. It's customized to that partner, to that customer. And that does take a little bit of time. But when you see a licensing deal or you see a partnership like this EDOM partnership that you're talking about, that right there is a door to just constant turnkey sales. And that's what KULR keeps setting up. These strategic partnerships that they're doing with the DoD sector or with certain EV players or et cetera, all of them are opening the door to consistent regular sales. If you get involved as an OEM on a car deal, then you're going to be set for the rest of your life with that car deal because you're so integrated into their systems. And so as we see these partnerships come to fruition, that's when the money is going to start flowing into KULR. My personal beliefs, my personal opinions here, that's where I think the money is going to really start flowing into KULR, is as this new technology starts coming to a head. Everything with KULR is still early on. I mean, this company was on the OTC markets just 2-3 years ago as a very, very popular small cap, but it wasn't until this past year that they started getting this type of traction. The piece that just came out in Fortune today, again, mentions the Bitcoin stuff, but they're starting to get these headlines that are very salacious, and it's starting to attract a new breed of investor. I think it's important to note that just last year alone, the company went up 1,600% on the chart. And so if you were holding them at the beginning of this past year, your money's gone up 1,600%. That is impressive. And just within the past month here, we've seen about a 5% increase on the chart, a little bit fizzling off today. However, Jay, let's shift it over to you, though. Obviously, you're following KULR too. You get involved with some of this stuff as well. What's your take on everything here?
Well, I actually want to talk about the Bitcoin side of things because I know there's a lot of investors who don't like that strategy. And what they need to understand and see the vision behind it is, unlike all these other people that are making these treasuries of Bitcoin, some of these companies don't make sense to have these treasuries. With KULR, it makes sense because they have this Vibe technology, this Jetson technology that actually helps with these servers. They are making the name for themselves so that these Bitcoin companies, these Bitcoin manufacturers, and even Nvidia, these are things that they can play in. And these companies like to see other people that are involved in Bitcoin. You don't want to be dealing in Bitcoin and then have this company come in and say, oh, we don't want to work with you because you don't know Bitcoin. You don't deal with Bitcoin. You don't have an understanding of it. How can you help us? KULR has a good understanding of Bitcoin, knows how it's working. And so there's a lot of rallying behind that. And the other factor is that they're building up to this 1,000 mark, where once they get to 1,000 Bitcoin, there's going to be a lot of institutional investors that are going to be looking at companies who are over this 1,000 mark. So it is going to get them the recognition to be on all these different lists so that they're getting that marketing exposure while at the same time investing in something that is going to give them a better return than typical bonds. And that's the big thing that Saylor is saying, is that investing in Bitcoin right now is a better investment for your company instead of leaving these things in bonds, generally by a 40% greater return. And so that has to be noted, to that you're doing this also from an investment perspective if you want your company to be performing better for what the investors are giving you the money for.
And I think the magic number of 1,000 is important to note because that's your threshold to get into the ETFs. My 3-year-old has an Acorns account, which, if you guys are familiar with it, it's a drip account where you swipe your credit card and then your spare change gets rounded up and then goes into an investment portfolio. And so Acorns, I love that service. Not sponsored by them, but if you want to sponsor us. And so with Acorns, that type of service is fantastic. And I invest in the Bitcoin ETF in my 3-year-old's portfolio. that would include companies like KULR once they've reached that inclusion threshold of 1,000 coins. And so we're only 390 coins away, according to KULR Technology. And so I think that it's going fantastic. I think it's a great strategy, both on the product side of handling the batteries and the cooling technology, and also on the BTC treasury side. I think it's just a really great approach. But we got one more client that we need to talk about here who did make another headline here, and that's Music Licensing Incorporated, OTC Markets SONG. And this one, it was a little bit different of a style of press release because it's talking about recognition from the United States Congress. It's not talking about any real like new partnership or new deal that's being made. It's about a recognition. And then, so Stuart, if you could just take 1 minute, kind of explain to everybody what the headline is.
Yeah, let me give you the headline and then we'll talk a little bit about it. Music Licensing Incorporated receives official federal recognition of its wholly owned subsidiary, Pro Music Rights, as a performing rights organization in the United States Federal Register. What preceded this was some news coming out that there is going to be a deeper dive into these companies. And we've talked about this before, these companies that are generating music with AI, things of that nature. The quote from Jake, this recognition in the Federal Register underscores our commitment to protecting artists' rights and ensuring fair compensation for their creative works. It strengthens our ability to negotiate with industry giants such as Apple, Amazon, Google, and Spotify. So again, what this has to do with was, again, there was some news coming out about this industry getting some, well, being put under scrutiny, and for good cause. And so we saw this not too long ago in what we called the Auditor Armageddon.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened there was PCAOB rules got tougher. And so what that made was, it didn't mean that these auditing firms were lackluster. It just meant they didn't want to deal in this space. So what happened? We lost quite a few auditors from the public company space. The big 3 or 4 stepped up. Deloitte, Touche, Ernst & Young, these ones like that stepped up, took on a lot more clients because they have the wherewithal to withstand this heightened scrutiny. And this is Jake leaning into this, saying, this is good for us. We stand by what we do. We stand by how we operate. We are not dealing with anything lascivious in this marketplace. Please, we welcome this intense scrutiny so that we can lose some of those players that are basically passively kind of in and out of this space, whereas Pro Music Rights is somebody that says, we're entrenched here, we're here to stay.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's, you hit the nail on the head. It's all about legitimacy, legitimizing the brand, legitimizing the business model. It's one thing to be inside of the entertainment space, and I mean, you're going to get a lot of hate inside of the entertainment space regardless, just because of what entertainment is. But having a more legitimate footing is always a good play. And I think that's what I did a video series. It's so far up to 2 parts, working on a 3rd part right now, breaking down what royalty revenues look like and kind of how music makes money for people and how companies like Pro Music Rights get involved with it, Music Licensing Incorporated. And so I think that it's a very unique space. And one of the reasons why I'm super excited about it, I have a music background, Stuart, you have a music background as well. And so I love kind of reading about the space, researching it, doing more about it, seeing these organizations, these pro organizations, or that's a double entendre, seeing these performance rights organizations and how they operate, how they're making money. It's fascinating to me what Song is doing. And with the pivot that we've seen in their business model, the allocation of new revenue generating assets, specifically the ones that have recently come out, like Goodnight Gotham by Rihanna, and then also Stop Capping by Blueface. These assets are already generating revenue in the market, and there's opportunities for them to kind of get more plays, etc., as streaming is booming. And that's what my series is trying to cover, is how big the streaming industry is in terms of music revenues. People are still getting paid for that. In fact, the content that we're producing right here, this has audio on it. We're paying for those licenses for the music, and so somebody's generating money off of this video right here. That's how the business works. And so it's a really fascinating one. So make sure to do your own due diligence on Song. Very unique company, very unique business model. But that's everything that we had. That's all 4 companies that had some really great headlines over the past few weeks. If we missed a headline, let us know in the comments here down below, and we'll go ahead and take a look. And if you're not subscribed, now is a great time to hit that subscribe button. This is Kevin for Small Cap Voice, and on behalf of Stuart and Jay, thanks for tuning in.